Now we must decide if we're going to get more Europeans or more NA people. Obviously, we don't need to ask which side each of you are going to be on. But we do have to talk about the stats a little, Tim, right? Like looking at recent performances, there's been an interesting pattern with PuppyPaw and LucifroN when they face off. Year to year switches, where one year PuppyPaw will be dominant, the other LucifroN will be dominant. Now, since the beginning of 2023, it's been heavily Lucy favored at 81% win rate with their matchups. The question mark, though, is Lucy ready for the newfound PuppyPaw? Because right now, I think it's fair to say this Canadian is a podium level player.
Oh, I'm gonna tell you, I think PuppyPaw is playing out of his mind. Honestly, I mean, like for some of these tournaments, I always want to see some PuppyPaw series because I remember this was. I mean, I feel like an AOE IV boomer at this point, being a day one player. But like, I remember seeing PuppyPaw and Wham in War Chief Club a long time ago. You know, being in War Chief Club, starting to get their feet out from under them and play some good games, and then all of a sudden they're making these tournaments, right? And they're making good runs in these tournaments, even in qualifiers, that kind of stuff. And then in the finals, we see them in the Elite Classic. And now it might just be one paw of a puppy, but it's a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, it's actually interesting to think back to the way he began Crackety, right? Like, I remember this kid when he was a filthy Mongol outpost rusher and a filthy Chinese outpost rusher. Agent sheep activities, average game time of 12 minutes. And now look at this guy. It feels like he's mastered every element of the game.
Yeah, you say like massive outpost rusher back in the day. Maybe PuppyPaw secretly was pilot elf all along, but yeah, PuppyPaw he's come a long way. He's come a long way, and now he's here. He's now, I want to say, like firmly established in the top 5 when it comes to players. And yeah, I mean this is his chance now. This is his time to shine against LucifroN. As you said, having a negative win rate against him so far, maybe now is gonna be his redemption arc.
Yeah, because we've got to highlight on the LucifroN side of things, 10 for Tim. We're looking at a guy who I think he'd admit he hasn't been playing his best Age of Empires 4 recently. You know, there's question marks out of the group stage how well it's going to go. Is this the LucifroN now fully fixed, similar to what we saw from Vortex, the complete turnaround? Is this going to be the guy who can make a deep run, or are we still looking at a guy who maybe isn't putting in the time he's known for? Maybe he's got divided attention between a Stormgate and an Age of Empires.
You know, I'll tell you what, with LucifroN, and just because him and Vortex, I should say, because they're two of the best RTS players that we have on this planet. So just because of how they're able to go into these different games and be like, oh yeah, there's a tournament for this new game coming out, I think I'm going to win that real quick. Let me just win that. Yeah. And then I'll come back. Right. So, you know, with LucifroN, I feel like when it comes back to Age of Empires 4, it's like riding a bike, baby. You know, I mean, you get it. You get your reps in. You get another week or two. You're on a really good tournament that's actually kind of set for people like LucifroN and Vortex because of how good they are on micro. You know, for how good they're able to be on water. For people like the Spanish brother, I know we talked about Marine Lord, we talk about Beastie. I know there's a lot of big names out there, chat. I get it, but don't sleep on these guys. You know, this is a tournament made for them.
I mean, that's the thing. They're known for their iterations, their experimentation, that leads to domination. But can they dominate against a player of PuppyPaw's caliber, performing out of his mind early on in 2024? It's time to find out. The third quarterfinals of Master of Realms, PuppyPaw versus LucifroN. We kick off on Gorge.
Here we go. Spawning the color red, we got PuppyPaw playing as the Roose here, and Gorge on the other hand side, LucifroN playing as the Mongols. And what is that? Look at the opening. LucifroN immediately starts off with a stable, no immediate Uwu. Instead, we're getting that stable into an additional scout. That is something that we probably don't see often.
You know, I'll tell you, this is what I love watching when I see LucifroN and I see Vortex playing in these games, because they usually practice with each other. They usually practice behind closed doors, so we never know what's going to go on. And just having that stable out to get that scout means, you know, your town center, you don't have to worry about losing a villager, right? And then you're going to be able to try to get some of these deer packs. But PuppyPaw did find it. We all know this is the Roose RNG bounty game in Dark Age, trying to find those deer packs and trying to get the 70 gold that all of those deer packs do provide. And PuppyPaw is going to be able to get one of his enemies over here. And, you know, when you talk about a map like Gorge, Crackety, as when you're playing as the Roose, your deer could have a propensity to spawn here. You know, we see them all the way in the corner. For PuppyPaw, you see one of his friendly deer packs, I should say, all the way on that western corner. So if you're a player, because Gorge is in the ranked map pool right now, if you're a player and you're either trying to deny Roose or you're trying to play as Roose, scout to the edges because you might miss something.
Yeah, I mean, right now, that's the issue here for LucifroN, right? Like, all the deer spawn on the same side, and PuppyPaw looks like he's going to be getting away with 3 of the 4 deer spots, and you definitely don't like seeing that, especially when you already invested into an additional scout in order to try and keep up with the Roose. Same time, PuppyPaw with a scout, also slightly ahead of the Khan. Movement speed arrow gets popped, might be able to get that sheep before PuppyPaw does, and indeed is able to at least secure himself another sheep, but another sheep is going to go over to PuppyPaw. Might be even 2. Oh, LucifroN. No, never mind. That sheep is converted by the Gur. Kind of hard to see with yellow.
And that's what, you know, that's what feels great when you're playing as Roose, because when you're making a couple scouts like this, and usually you end up making 3, you're always going to have sheep, right? You're always going to find them. At least you'll get a couple of them. So you're never like, oh, I only found 2 sheep this game. And then you have to go out and get berries and get all of that kind of stuff. Roose kind of negates that, you know? And just because of the fact that they need to get those deer packs, you can see he's getting over that pivotal 200, 210 kind of soft spot. So when he does start to go up, and will be going up with the Kremlin, I would imagine, very soon, then starts to go on wood, he's going to have the ability to get wheelbarrow. And he's got that wheelbarrow queued, and he's going to be able to get that going.
Yeah, PuppyPaw just needs a single wolf kill now in order to be able to get to that 250 bounty mark. LucifroN, it's gonna make it hard for him though. There's the wolf, they're fighting about it right now. Silver Tree is going up for LucifroN, Kremlin going up for PuppyPaw. Khan also fighting off against some of the wolves.
I mean, we talked about that wolf over on the western side. That's quite the important wolf. I mean, that wolf over there, it just means that 225 to 250, PuppyPaw pulls a second scout to make sure he's able to get it. What's really something you got to watch out for, that's exactly what LucifroN kind of got baited into doing, just because each of those scouts hit for 3. You got to make sure if you're on that odd number, LucifroN might have been able to snipe it, but not going to be able to do that. Hits that 250, goes with that Kremlin up. He already has villagers on wood. I would imagine he's going to add some villagers on stone for another town center. I mean, we didn't really have the chance to talk about it just because of the Roose bounty game that's in Dark Age, but this matchup for Roose, you'll love it. You'll love to see it.
Yeah, Second TC also going to be coming in for PuppyPaw. Definitely knows that on this map especially, like, it's going to be kind of tough for Mongols to keep their trade defended. The markets are so far in the middle. Your traders are going to be walking across half the map for that one, like throughout the middle part of the map, not just along the back line.
Yeah, that's what really helps too, just making sure some of your resources. I mean, the Kremlin, that's something a lot of people don't really appreciate out of the Roose, because it's a 5,000 hit point outpost and it hits like a truck. Right, so just make sure that you're going to be a little bit defensive, and especially when you're playing against a civilization like the Mongols, who like to do things like tower rush, who like to get into your face really early into the game. You have that Kremlin, you're not going to be able to do that.
Are you ready to play Bet the Bounty? I'm guessing we're about 300 now. It's kind of sad now we know the bounty at all times. It's kind of tough to like play that game anymore. But yeah, 300 bounty for PuppyPaw definitely has to be feeling great. Especially since his opponent invested into... Yeah, okay, now we can play the game. Especially since his opponent needs to invest into a stable and into an additional scout.
Yeah, I mean, that is what's really nice. You can see that difference in the economic count, right? It's pretty much even. LucifroN has a trader that's going out. And that's something, honestly, for the Mongols, I really like to play. You know, because when you're playing as the Roose, you're thinking about trying to get that town center up as quickly as possible. You know, he's going to be able to get it up in about, 5 minutes, 40 seconds. He's going to be able to start building it. He's going to go to that deer pack over there on the eastern side. But it just means you spend so much time getting wood and stone. You're not trying to do things like get military production buildings, right? So maybe LucifroN can get a couple, right? Maybe he can get a couple traders to try to get some good drop-offs, and it could be able to help him out while PuppyPaw's trying to get going. Because for trade, it feels like it's a little bit quicker. You know, having that silver tree, just getting that landmark essentially immediately, you get that quote-unquote town center to keep producing.
Yeah. TC now going up for PuppyPaw. But the first couple of the first traders already out for LucifroN. Behind this, market is now repositioning all the way into the north corner.
And you got to think, I mean, there's got to be some good trade coming out here. And for Gorge, I feel like it's a pretty good Mongolian map just because, yeah, you have that really good trading post over there on the opposite side. But the trading post that's in the middle on the western side, it's not the worst thing in the world, right? It's not like a trading post is going to spawn right behind your base that you're like, oh, I pretty much only have one place to go, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, this is pretty sneaky here from PuppyPaw, sending a single scout over to that market, to that silver tree. Means that LucifroN, he's not going to be able to place it. He's not going to be able to place a landmark.
Yeah. Nope. Not going to be able to get there. And actually, if he did want to go in the corner, I don't think he would have the ability to because of the deer carcasses that are there. And
he can't go quite in the corner.
Mm-mm.
Villager's getting pulled as well. Could be at least there to help against that one scout.
And it's just, it's wheeling around, trying to figure out a good landscape to come out. But now that I'm pretty sure he's going to send like 1 or 2 Keshiks to try to help him. But again, it's just a little bit of delay, right? These traders are going to be just standing there being like, yeah, I mean, I got these goods, but, you know, where am I even going to put them? Now the Keshik's going to be over there trying to take down that scout. Just a little bit of time to make sure that TC gets paid off a little bit. Silver Tree's now finally going to go down. I really like, actually, that LucifroN pulled these villagers over on the north side because you get an outpost, keep those traders safe, and then you're able to get that hunt that's over there on the north side as well. So pretty good play.
Scout's also going down. PuppyPaw lost another scout on the south side as well. So now he's down to just 1 scout. PuppyPaw behind this, now adding in Spearmen. 3 Spearmen out, 3 more in queue. Knights following up as well. A good old Knight and Spearman composition. Feels pretty good here for PuppyPaw right now.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, those Knights are really going to pack a punch compared to those Keshiks, right? In Feudal Age, it's 145 health for a Keshik and 190 for an early Knight. So just having the ability to make sure you get more of a quality over quantity because LucifroN is the one who's double producing, right? Out of the stable, he had a couple double production Keshiks, so he's always going to have more. Just got to make sure you get enough. You have some Spearmen. That's going to help you out too. And LucifroN, he probably is going to be a little bit more reluctant to do things like make an army composition transition because he wants the mobility of these Keshiks, right? We're seeing that pay off. The wall ends up not getting created. A couple Keshiks end up breaking through. There's about 2 or 3 that ends up getting broken through. Maybe that villager ends up going down. Spearman trying to catch him off guard and trying to take down some of these gold villagers, which he might have the ability to do.
Yeah, looks like the wall is going to get closed up. With that, PuppyPaw has secured himself a large portion of his own base. Villager at least is going to go down. Trade not really scaling that quickly at the moment. PuppyPaw is ahead overall in economy. So far, there hasn't been really a great deal of harassment yet on the economy from LucifroN. More and more Keshiks are coming out, but the Spearman numbers keep building.
Yeah, and I mean, he's doing, like, LucifroN's doing what he can, right? And that's a frustrating thing with playing against the Roose, right? Because these Keshiks are trying to find some villagers to take down. Spearmen are continuously chasing them. And if you leave them for just a second, just like LucifroN did, all of a sudden your Keshiks are at about 20 health, and then you can't really get anywhere, right? Early Knights, not necessarily taking a fight to a Keshik, but taking a fight to some of these donkeys. And it looks like one of them will end up going down. LucifroN trying to get some outposts over here on the south side, but he's got to pull some Keshiks for a little bit of reinforcements, or he's going to have a lot of dead villagers trying to build that outpost.
Keshiks are going to be coming over. Not quite enough, though. 2 Keshiks versus 2 Knights and a Spear. 2 more Keshiks are going to make their way over, though. Need to be pulled back. Looks like the Keshiks in the base of PuppyPaw from LucifroN did get taken down. Most likely another trader will end up losing its life there.
Yeah, and for LucifroN, this is kind of his time to get this under control, right? We're looking at military count right now. PuppyPaw actually sensing a little bit of urgency and pulls the boys, and by the boys, I mean the Kremlin gremlins, those little militia with their bardishes might not do as much in damage to something like an infantry unit, but to cavalry, it's 6 damage plus another 6. So having those gremlins going to be able to come out and maybe take hits on some of these traders as well, just trying to harass this trader over and over again. You can see LucifroN's macro. He's at about 800 food, about 500 gold. He's going to be trying to get up to Castlade. I just don't think he's going to end up doing it. And with a trade line that's not really secure, it could be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, right now, already losing 7 of his economy units at this point in time. Couple of Knights now making their way over to the market, still killing more traders. One trader just 1 hit away from going down, very likely will go down here soon. LucifroN only just now adding in archers, but up against Keshik's spear, going for the archers doesn't feel quite that good. You need a lot of archers there.
Yeah, and this is the issue, right? I mean, they both of these civilizations, both Roose and Mongols, want to have some kind of economic advantage over their opponent. For the Mongolians, they need a little bit of map control so they can do the trade. For the Roose, they could just plop their town center near their Kremlin, right? So they automatically get that economic bonus, where LucifroN has struggled for pretty much the duration of this game. Now we have some early knights in that wood line all the way in the back. Keshiks are going to have to try to help us a little bit, provide some reinforcements. Hopefully, we don't see PuppyPaw having any blacksmith upgrades. That town center is going to do a pretty good amount of damage. But don't look now. LucifroN had to make a lot of Keshiks. He has 5 in the queue. PuppyPaw has that similar military advantage. He's taking good trades throughout the duration of this game, so he's going to be able to get the high trade house.
Yeah, aging up now behind us with even military, but 15 economy ahead. LucifroN behind us, not even really close to being able to age up. Uwu is getting rebuilt, but I'm wondering if that's even worth it now. At this point in time, there's probably not too much stone remaining. Castle Age on the horizon now for PuppyPaw.
Yeah, and Castle Age nowhere in sight for LucifroN because he wasn't getting any food. You know, there was a little bit of deer, I think, on that northern side that he was able to get. And now, we're not even going to see how this plays out in Castle Age. I think we kind of knew already. But game number 1, going to PuppyPaw, taking that 1-0 lead and a little bit of the momentum away from LucifroN. I mean, this is just one of those situations where it's such a good matchup for PuppyPaw. You got to close this one out.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely an uphill position there from the perspective of the Mongols player, right? You can't really go for an engagement in Dark Age because guess what? PuppyPaw with the Roose, or rather the Roose in general, they don't even need to move out to gold in order to be able to get to the Feudal Age. They just get gold baseline just by hunting the animals, and you gotta play that mini game if you wanna like deny at least a little bit of the gold. If you ignore it completely, you're potentially just giving over like 200 resources over to your opponent for free. Definitely not something that you want to do, and with that, PuppyPaw is going to be able to take the lead in this set, but this next one is going to be interesting because once again, we will be seeing French on Archipelago. This time, though, up against the Chinese from LucifroN.
Yeah, we're finally seeing it. I think this is the first game we're seeing Chinese. Most of the time, Zushi, Chinese, and all that kind of stuff were banned off of this. Now, not so much. I mean, again, this is the 3rd series in a row that we're doing this on Archipelago, and French is being played. I'm waiting because PuppyPaw was one who...
It's fine. It was just the matchup earlier.
It was. But I mean, PuppyPaw is somebody that he did get a win with French on this map, correct? He was the one who kind of started to break this out.
Maybe.
Okay, great.
I don't know off the top of my head. Like I saw Louis play as well, and I saw a lot of practice games with French happening. So kind of tough to say who exactly is trying to make it popular. I think overall, when you look at the toolkit, I would personally favor Jean here because you have the option of just taking Jean, putting her in a transport ship, sending her over, and suddenly it's like, yeah, you got Jean on the other side for like pretty much free. And she's definitely like one of those units that disrupt a lot more. Also, you have the ability to consecrate your buildings in Feudal Age, so you save up even more food on your villagers, on your ships overall. And yeah, then it gets to Castle Age, and suddenly you can buff up even more buildings.
Yeah, and you know, I'm just really itching for a Jeanne d'Arc game, honestly. We haven't seen one yet today, and I haven't been able to make all my Jeanne d'Arc jokes yet. So they're just like stewing. They're in here somewhere, and I'm just waiting to kind of break them out. But for this one now, it's going to be Jeanne d'Arc minus Jeanne d'Arc, and we're going to be seeing Chinese. So it's very interesting just because Chinese, they do have that wood economy. Again, you know, they might have to make their IO, but they still get one for that wood economy. So we're going to see how much of a prowess that the Chinese could have over the French. We're diving in to game number 2. I hope you brought your water wingies, ladies and gentlemen. LucifroN playing as the Chinese on the western side of the map. PuppyPaw spawning in the northeast, playing as the French, obviously getting their docks up. And again, this is our 3rd series that we're seeing Archipelago. We got to take a look at where these spawns are. Now, both of these wood lines are actually pretty safe from the shore. This is pretty good for both these guys.
yeah, get your pool noodles out because there's a whole lot of water on this map. Looking at the spawns, there aren't any of those like little hidden ponds in the back of any of these islands, which sometimes we've seen in this generation. That's not going to be the case here today. And overall, this looks like a fairly standard, like a little bit further, like players are a little bit further away from each other kind of situation. Scout gets deleted, makes a lot of sense with China deleting that Scout.
Yeah, what's nice for the Tang Dynasty, you get that 30% vision. Right? So, yeah,
Wait,
so you're able to...
players delete their Scouts, actually. Wait, this is like one of the rare times when you look at the military graph, it's just empty. Because none of the players have military, it's just completely empty.
it feels like something's missing. Isn't it? Like there should be a couple more alliance there, shouldn't it? You think there's a little bit of a bug going on. But yeah, both these Scouts end up going down, and I mean, I get it for population space. I understand why you don't necessarily need it. PuppyPaw gonna be doing the French thing that we saw B do in the second series. You know, using some of the shoreline fish to make sure he's able to get there as quickly as possible. But let's make sure we have that feudal time that ends up paying off very well.
The question's gonna be, when is the Imperial Official coming out here for LucifroN? Because especially on a map like this where you have a lot of straggler trees, you might not feel forced into making the Imperial Official really early, but I think now is probably the time where you really want to like start getting, and you're now at 9 villagers, so getting 20% bonus in on that. That's like having like 2 bonus villagers, and there is the Imperial Official, so there we go. Imperial Official just came in for LucifroN.
I mean, can we just take a second and talk about how good Kraken is at this game? Because we didn't see the town center. We didn't see what was in queue. And you're like, yeah, you should get an IO. Lord knows, 10 seconds later, that IO pops right out. So having a caster, honestly, having a caster like you just makes me look so much better. But now with that IO, gonna be able to supervise that lumber mill and making sure that you're getting 12 food every drop off instead of 10. Obviously, it means that second dock gets out quicker. It means those fishing boats get out quicker. It means you might be able to get to feudal age a little bit better, right? And get some of those military ships, whereas PuppyPaw on the other side, he's just playing stereotypical wood economy.
Also something to keep in mind, LucifroN, he's gathering shoreline fish with his villagers, which means that lots of tax is also going to accrue inside of the dock. Actually, if we take a quick look at LucifroN's dock, that's been going for a while. I'm wondering how much tax is in there, like 50, 60 gold at this point in time. Quick look at it. 69. Nice.
I got too excited. I'm so sorry. But
perfect timing on that one.
you guys couldn't see me on camera, but my arm shot up in the air for some reason. But now with getting this gold, right? From getting these gold from the taxes, it just means, yeah, you have a couple villagers on gold. You're gonna make sure you're gonna be able to get some of these ships. You know, the demo ships cost a little bit of gold, so you're gonna be able to do that. But at the same time, it just makes you get up that much quicker. And PuppyPaw now with that 400 to 200, actually at a rather good time. He's going to send 8 villagers on it. Imperial Academy coming up for LucifroN, 5 villagers. Again, this is the first time that we're seeing the Chinese on this map today. So I want to ask you, what do you think about Song Dynasty?
No.
We're just brainstorming. We're just talking. You know, no one's doing anything. I just wanted to float it out there.
Yeah, I legitimately think you can't go Song Dynasty. It's just so many resources invested into the H-Hub. For what? You're getting a Barbican? Like, sure, you're getting your villagers out every 15 seconds instead of every 20 seconds. You're able to, like, be a little bit more even with the French overall, because they're getting their villagers out a little bit quicker. But sacrificing 600 resource for that doesn't come easy, especially since the majority, or rather a good portion of your income, is going to be water-based anyways.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, probably for the amount of time it would take Song Dynasty to actually pay off, number one, probably not that important. And number two, you're kind of just negating what the French does, right? Their villagers, now that they're in feudal age, are every 17 seconds. For Song Dynasty, you get them in 15, which is fine. But, you know, you're still spending 600 resources to try to negate what the French does automatically for free. So it doesn't seem very cost effective. I do agree with you. Chinese going to be going with the light junk, but don't let the name fool you. It can fire a lot of arrows and is certainly not junk. PuppyPaw going to be adding a spring-old ship to counteract some of that arrow ship. And again, just because LucifroN was able to get up a little bit quicker, they were kind of reasonable times. We're going to see some more fights on French waters, and if you're the Chinese player, you'll love to see it.
Warcog out immediately means LucifroN will have to back off here for the time being. Now Warjunk is going to be in queue on his side. Second dock is getting added in as well. China, they do build their ships slightly faster, so Warjunk should be out in time. Additional Imperial officials are also being added in from the landmark. And yeah, Warjunk, 10 seconds remaining, and the Warcog actually did pull back, so no damage on LucifroN's economy will be dealt here.
You know, if you're a Chinese player and you're playing on Archipelago, you're getting more of those Imperial officials out of the landmark, like you stated. Where for those Imperial officials? Obviously, one's going on the lumber camp because you need that wood economy. Where are some of these other IOs going?
Well, while they're not actively like dropping off taxes, you just have them on gold. That's like the only other like income building or like gathering building that you'll really be having here. You can't supervise stocks in the end.
Right. Because as you're getting there and you're getting the max amount of IOs. I mean, again, you just have to have 4 production or economic buildings in order to supervise them, right? Just to try to make sure. And you could see the difference in that 20%. Honestly, at this point, you know, I mean, a lot of this wood Chinese are going to be at about 700, 750. PuppyPaw trying to get there, trying to get to about 700 as well. But some of the other economy that's here, like from LucifroN, he's getting 300 gold a minute to PuppyPaw's 100 some, right? So you could see maybe he doesn't have as many villagers on wood that PuppyPaw needs, but he'll be able to allocate them in different resource nodes.
For sure. Demo ships are now also coming in from both players. Overall, looking at the economy, I'm surprised how good PuppyPaw's wood income is so far. Like being able to keep up with the Chinese here.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, and probably, and that's what I think, probably the only reason why is because he has more villagers on that resource. That's probably the only way you're going to be able to do it. And then the other resources are kind of taking a hit. Now, LucifroN trying to get a demo ship up there gets destroyed near that coastal trading post. We can give you a little bit of resources if you happen to trade in that particular area. But military count now, PuppyPaw, keep it up, right? It's about 26 to 20. LucifroN does have some demo ships, a little bit more demo ships than PuppyPaw is, but LucifroN, I don't think he's at that mass right now for how close it is. I don't think he's at that mass to really take a fight near a French dock.
I'm staring. What is LucifroN doing? 5 demolition ships, 2 more in queue. That's a lot. That's a lot of demolition ships.
Hey, I mean, for the Americans in chat, it's almost 4th of July. So, you know, maybe we're just trying to get ready for it. We're trying to prepare. Hopefully, I'm not the only American who's actually in this chat. We've got some demo ships here, about 4 or 5 of them trying to, just because of PuppyPaw, he has a lot of cogs. You know, he does have a lot of war cogs, so he's going to be able to, if he does get a good explosion, he might be able to, you know? Only a couple arrow ships, making sure those demos will end up getting destroyed. It looks like trying to get a little bit of a hit, not quite getting there. Some of the war junks from the Chinese end up staying alive, and now we have the march of the demo ships. A lot of these warcogs are going in there. There's only 1 or 2 galleys. It's going to end up getting picked off. I think PuppyPaw's going to have to run, and that's what he's doing over there on the south side. Some of these hulks, they're getting split in all of these different directions. A couple of them are going to end up going down, and just getting all of those warcogs, excuse me, just getting all of them in all of those different directions. That could have been devastating for PuppyPaw, but I think he was able to recover.
Yeah, he mitigated a lot of the damage, but overall, it's still not over for him because there's once again 4 demolition ships out and about now for LucifroN. Still more and more in queue. Archer ships are getting picked off here and there. Only 1 remaining for PuppyPaw at the moment. And it's up to 6 demo ships again.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of that I feel like is because LucifroN is able to allocate a little bit more resources to gold. Number 1, number 2, he's able to get some taxes, right? Because you remember demo ships, they're 90-90, right? 90 wood, 90 gold. So getting your gold economy underway means you're going to be able to produce those so well. And it's kind of crazy because he just has those 2 arrow ships, right? He just has the 2 arrow ships to be able to snipe some of the 1 or 2 demos. But I feel like if PuppyPaw continues to go in this warcog situation, I don't know how many times he can make splits.
Yeah, and there's only so much shoreline to run away from. Galley though, archer ship did just get sniped out. A new one is coming out though. From LucifroN has to back off. There's 2 demolition ships getting 1 of the war junks down. Still alive though, and the archer ship is getting sniped. No more archer ships for the moment. This is the time. This is the moment in time, and the demos, they connect. Big shots, big connections. Happy 4th of July, everybody in chat, and that is a devastating loss, and GG gets called.
Just get me the hell out of here. PuppyPaw. Oh man, that's a good explosion. That's a good explosion. Look at all these shipwrecks that are going to be on the bottom of the archipelago. Oh my god. I mean, that's what happens when you're playing on water, right? The keeping your head on a swivel through all of those, right? He did such a good job on that first one, getting all of those war cogs in all of these different directions, making sure he had some kind of fleet alive. But I'm telling you, Crackety, you know this as well as I do, playing on hybrid maps or water maps. You don't look at the water for 2 to 3 seconds, your game ends.
Gonna talk about the snowballs again?
We got a snowball. No, we're not gonna talk about it again.
I'm gonna, because those snowballs, they were loaded. That wasn't just snow. There was black tar or something like that in there, and they hit hard. They hit hard. That wasn't just snow. Up to the next game though, because this is actually one of my favorite maps at the moment. Just the way that the games turn out, or rather, they started turning out ever since the cut record changed. I love this map. This is like mountain clearing, but it's not mountain clearing at the same time. So we're going to be seeing English versus Byzantines. And we talked about earlier, English, not bad versus Byzantines, but this is on a map. You're not going to go 2TC there. You're not going to go 2TC there. 1TC all the way. And this is going to be an interesting situation that we'll find ourselves in. English versus Byzantines on such a closed off map like Socotra. Such a small map where you're like, you can see the neighbor pretty much from your TC. You're like, oh, there he is. There's 2 wood lines between, and then he's there. He's there.
It's such a fun, interesting map. But I think Cow is going to hover us over to some instant replays. Is that correct?
There we go.
Oh yeah,
We're getting an instant replay on that.
Look at this production from Cal. The only thing I need is a teleprompter to end up drawing in all of these directions now. As we're seeing some of these demo ships, we got a big load of those demo ships over there on the western side. It looks like they're trying to find some area. PuppyPaw's demo ships really not that efficacious, right?
That's the one archer ship going down, and now suddenly no more answers to the demo ships.
And then all of a sudden, the march of the demo ships come in right on those hulks. We just saw that. Ladies and gentlemen, he's trying to split up those warcocks, but it ends up not going. And man, those cogs, they had something in there because they weren't able to turn, and they ended up going down. Now back to Socotra. Cal, thank you very much for that replay. Everyone give a shout out to Cal for having replays as the production quality of EGC TV. That's kind of fantastic, and I hope everybody has the opportunity to not only follow EGC, maybe some subs, maybe go into Surfshark. We're playing a lot of water maps, ladies and gentlemen. You want to surf safely? You go ahead and get yourself some Surfshark. Now, going into Socotra, English versus Byzantines. Now, Socotra is an AOE 2 map. You know, we've seen it at AOE 2, so let's see how it works. In AOE 4 with English and Byzantines, we're ready to dive right in to game number 3. This is such a pivotal part. This is a best of 3 now. It's a 1-1 tie. Whoever takes this one is going to have initiative for the rest of the series. This is a pivotal game 3 on a map that it's so small, Crackety, you got nowhere to run, brother.
Nowhere to run indeed, but running is not something that these players typically do. And here we go, as you said, game number 3. Byzantines for LucifroN in the color yellow against the English from PuppyPaw in the color red. This is a small, tiny map. You're right there next to your opponent, pretty much. Like you can see him. Like you see, like, hey, over there. I know where you are. I know where you are. There's nothing you can do about it. The question's gonna be how this will exactly play out. Will we actually see something like a king here? I doubt it. I actually doubt that we see king here. I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I think especially, you know, playing against the Byzantines too. I feel like as English, you know, for the Byzantines, maybe something like that Western contract with the longbowmen probably aren't the best idea because the English are just going to make more longbows than you, right? And for javelin throwers, you might have the potential to make enough longbowmen, and they don't have enough javelin throwers where maybe it doesn't even matter, right? So the English, I know I'm hyping up the English a lot, and I do usually most days. But I really feel like English has the potential to do just about anything they want.
Anything you say. Yeah, I mean, Englishes are in a I want to say fantastic spot at the moment when it comes to their strengths, right? Like they're very defensive, they're able to boom up, they're able to defend their boom. They got all the tools. They've been given all the tools that they need in order to deal with most situations, and that is actually exactly what you're looking for in a civilization. Byzantines, on the other hand, they're very good in many matchups, but not all. Definitely not all. And this is definitely one of those matchups where they can find themselves struggling with. They get some really cool, unique mercenary units, like the longbow. Yeah, well, guess what? The English, they get that too. They get that too. They don't think that's special. Not special at all.
No, I mean, if you're the Byzantines and you make the mercenary house with the Western contract and longbowmen English, are going to be like, yeah, we made those. So, you know, we kind of know what to do about it.
And
But it
it's
looks like
gonna be
PuppyPaw
the
going to be
Abbey.
going for the Abbey. That's right, Crackety. And, you know, with the Abbey, I mean, I get it. You know, the king doesn't have a long distance in order to traverse. But looking at this Byzantine base, you can see the berries are in the back. The gold is in the back. Where is it going to necessarily go?
I was thinking, okay, maybe this king is merely like meant to delay LucifroN in order to facilitate a fast castle age from PuppyPaw. We've seen the White Tower just being incredibly strong on these like very, very tiny maps because there's not a lot of map control to go around. And with the White Tower, suddenly you take a majority of the portion of it away from your opponent. I would have thought it would be that, but then I saw PuppyPaw pull all of his villagers over to wood, and now I'm like, no, it's gonna be 2TC. On a map like this? Interesting. There's not a long distance between you and your opponent, so if LucifroN decides to go for aggression, this is gonna work out much better than it did in the B versus Marine game on Dry Arabia.
And I think LucifroN's the kind of guy that can execute something like an aggressive. We all know Vortex is a very aggressive player, so LucifroN probably cut from a similar cloth, having half of his genetic code. I think that ends up paying off. But with the Abbey of the Kings coming up here, exactly right. I mean, with this second town center, you also got to be thinking about where you're going to put it, right? Because on a map like Socotra, and the distance is minimalized, the places that you put things are exponentially more important, right? So having a town center, if you want to go somewhere like forward, like near Deer Pack or something like that, if you're English, it's usually not a good idea anyway, but you know that it's dangerous. You know that that's the greedy thing to do. So you end up, maybe you're putting it by your gold, which is in the back. That can definitely help you because I've seen some Socotra games. I've seen some practice games from other top players and streamers and that kind of stuff. Some people dock and make a navy.
We've seen that time and time again, but usually against Malians because their pit mine is right next to the shoreline. This time there aren't really any pit mines, and I would still say that this is an option for these players to go for. But I think as the Byzantines, you'd rather not. You don't really have a sprinkle ship. You'd rather stay away from water if possible. You get the drone on, and once the drone comes out, you're suddenly gonna be like, why did I make this?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of... I didn't really expect to drone on about the Dromon, but with this in the particular situation, I mean, obviously with water there, we just don't see Byzantines on water because of it, right? And LucifroN's going to make sure that everything stays kind of on land, right? He's going to be adding a barracks. He adds some limited aid, which is really going to help him against the king. And it looks like with that micro, this is something that LucifroN does very, very well, just keeping those berry villagers safe, right? You want to get that first set of mercenary units. You want to make sure that you're getting whatever contract you end up getting. You're going to be able to get that to protect yourself to get the second one. So there is a little bit of compounding interest on that.
Second TC coming in for PuppyPaw now, slightly forward. I'm telling you what, Tim, I'm a little bit worried here. If we see some clown carring, as we saw from B earlier, just without losing 2 of your villagers and going for a very far outward proxy without any benefits from it, this might end up being like a really easy to harass TC for LucifroN here.
Yeah, because even from the villagers getting a little pissed off, bringing the Akratoy out. You see those spears got a little bit bigger. They put their shivs back in their pockets, so they get a little bit of extra damage. But for PuppyPaw in the English, you're exactly right, correctly, with this second town center. I mean, he tried to make it as safe as possible, but there's still avenues in which you can attack, right? You can still attack from that northeast side in between the two wood lines, southeastern side betwixt the two wood lines as well. You might have the ability to get a ram over there, and even though, it's English and they're a defensible civ and, they have a town bell that rings every time you get near it. It's like a alarm bell. The second town center still can only garrison 7 and still only has an attack of 6, right? So if you can get that TC down, all of a sudden the economic advantage for the English is completely gone.
Where's the production buildings for PuppyPaw? I'm not seeing them. Don't think they exist. And siege engineering is now in queue.
Look at his macro, Crackety. I think he's trying to get to Castle Age as soon as possible.
No way, that is not happening. No way, Jose.
He's been on 6 wood for a minute now. It's going up a little bit. Yeah, he's gonna need some units. I mean, the king's gonna do a little bit of scouting, and he sees that there's javelin throwers. He sees there's Limit. He has to vacate some of those deer packs, and hopefully LucifroN will be able to get his flaming ram over to that second TC, where I don't necessarily think PuppyPaws have a good answer. He's still macroing, Crackety. Look at it.
Yeah, no production buildings yet at all. PuppyPaw he's just ignoring it. He's just ignoring it. The clown, I want to say the clown car isn't coming in yet. There's still no Cure Siphons coming in, but LucifroN has the resource to, in theory, just pump out 2 right away. I'm not sure what he's doing. There we go. Now the Cure Siphon is coming in. Get out 2 of those bad boys. Just take the TC down and take the war over to PuppyPaw's base.
Yeah, because, I mean, if that TC goes down, PuppyPaw goes down for game number 3, right? I mean, not having that advantage. But it's going to take a while to build them. And look at what PuppyPaw's at. He's at about 900 food. He's at about 500 gold. I mean, honestly, this is just kind of a race. He's depending on the defensibility of an English base. He's depending on that. So he has
to depend on, but the food is running out. Look at that, the sheep.
Yeah, where's he gonna go? Where's he gonna go now? That's one of the beauties about Socotra. I mean, it's a really small map, obviously. We talked about that at great length. He's got some sheep carcasses left. It looks like there's about 6. But once he gets to Castle Age, right, is he going to be able to make units? And where is he gonna put that white tower? So it's going to be difficult. Now he's going for a little bit of a farm transition at a time when you probably don't want to be doing that right now. He does hit the button. The white tower is starting to go up. He's got 8 villagers on it, so probably in about a minute or so, it ends up going up. And if that white tower goes up, now he's pulling the boys. 25 villagers on that white tower, trying to get that up as soon as possible. I think he's basically conceding the fact that this town center is going to go down. I mean, obviously, you don't have any military to stop anyway.
He cancels and builds again. This delays the timing by a good bit. Oh, this is so rough now for PuppyPaw.
Yeah, he's got
LucifroN just diving. He's gonna kill villagers. Just wants to go for the kill on the villagers now. It's gonna get a couple of villager kills, I want to say. Not too many. Should still have a lead at the end. And LucifroN's gonna have to run away. PuppyPaw can literally put all but 2 villagers inside of the keep. That's how many. There's so many slots in that keep for villagers. It's kind of insane. 20 villagers find shelter inside of that keep.
This is disgusting. I'm sorry. This is disgusting. The fact that you get that white tower and you kind of stopped any kind of offensive push in its tracks. It looks like a lot of those villagers look like they like fire just a little bit too much. They're trying to go ahead and light their torches with some of that Siphon of fire, that Greek fire that's over there. And a lot of these rams, remember, these rams don't have as much health as a normal battering ram, so maybe they end up going down a little bit quickly. That town center, again, acting as a machine gun, making sure javelin throwers, Limit and the like are not going to be able to get there. Looks like he's trying to get this starting town center down, and, he just might if the villagers don't get their torches out soon. But it begs the question, I mean, how's he going to deal with the tower?
If the TC and the lumber camp go down, where is PuppyPaw going to draw wood off?
All right, that's an issue. Yeah, I didn't think about that. that could be kind of an issue. Now villagers are going to try pull those torches out and take these things down. The real nice thing, though, I mean, he doesn't have any food left, and that's kind of the big issue, because he built the white tower, and it's acting as a keep, and that's all really good. But he got the defense. He's not getting the tempo, right? Because he doesn't have the food economy, so he's not able to make any units out of it at all. He would love something like some men-at-arms, right? Some Castle Age men-at-arms with Iron Chad, you know, all that kind of stuff. Making sure you're taking those javelins, make sure you're taking those limited A spears, but he just can't make any.
God. At least he's killing a couple of the javelin throwers every now and then. Oh my god, he's losing. He just lost 6 villagers. He just lost 6 villagers to the fire. They just popped out of the TC right in the fire, and they all died. He lost 50 villagers.
PuppyPaw's making a Springald out of the white tower. I don't know if one Springald is going to do it for you, my friend, especially with a lot of those melee units, but that town center, that machine gun is no more. PuppyPaw is no more. Yeah, that's chaos, baby. That's
That is not how I thought this
chaos.
game would go. That is not at all how I thought this game was gonna go. I thought, okay, PuppyPaw is gonna go to DC. He's gonna get a ton of longbows out, maybe some horsemen. He's gonna defend his base. But no, he just gave the second TC up, and suddenly LucifroN was all over his base. The sheep ran out, and suddenly the game ended.
Don't anybody tell me you weren't entertained by that game. That was that was a lot of fun to watch. I was I was kind of curious as to if PuppyPaw was going to be able to get that out with that white tower. I was like, is the white tower that good? To take down all of these rams and the limit today and the javelin throwers. The answer was no.
Well, I'm confused, boys, because I'm pretty sure I've seen some YouTube videos and Reddit threads that said the White Tower Rush build is unbeatable. It's impossible. It cannot be overcome. But yet here, LucifroN defies fate. He gets himself to match point, and we've got to dissect these. A few of these games very quick. That opening game, I think we kind of just expect Roose to take that off the block. The interesting thing though, Crackety, is even PuppyPaw couldn't make the French work, even though he's the only person to do so far on Archipelago. I think he's actually the only person with a win. But now, the funny part is 24 hours later, we go from 100% win rate to a 20% win rate for the French, putting them in last.
Close. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a couple of times. French on water maps, they don't have a lot of them going for them. At least when you compare them to like the big four. The big four civilizations that like rule supreme on water. You got like Juji, you got your China, you got your Achery, you have your Order of the Dragon-ish kinda. I want to say like Order of the Dragon. They work sometimes. They work mostly on like those pure water maps, not so much on the hybrid maps. And after it like goes English, and I think very much at the bottom, there's Byzantines, and just a tiny notch above them, there's French.
Yeah, I think maybe Joan can fare a bit better, but even she's having a hard time. 25% win rate in this tournament so far as well. Like looking at this series so far, Tim. I mean, what the education point is, and I think we should have expected this. Kind of feels like pressure, right? Like I think that's going to be the recurring theme for the rest of this series. Is whoever goes all in is likely to take the dub, similar to what we just saw in game number 3.
And I'm going to be honest with you, KP. That's my favorite way the Age of Empires is played. I mean, like you see your opponent being like, okay, I'm gonna spend some resources, I'm gonna spend some villager allocation time to go get something like a second town center, right? I mean, granted, PuppyPaw maybe making units might have been a good idea, but for Byzantines, he saw that. LucifroN sees that, and he's like, you're not doing that. We're gonna take this thing down. When you're trying to get that economic advantage, it should be a risk, right? Because it's a greedy thing to do. It's a greedy thing to do things like the Mongols in the first game, trying to get trade going, right? Trying to get that trade going, get all that map control. It's a risk, and you should have the ability to get punished for it. The good players are the ones who get that economic advantage, and they can pull it off.
Yeah, I think that's why people have been joining Archipelago, despite what some people might not like playing them. What we love about Archipelago is every time we see someone go Castle Age, end up being the one who loses the game so far. Looking forward to the rest of this draft, just quickly, just getting your thought on this, Crackety. Obviously got Japanese versus Abbasids Cup next. Then potentially a Joan Delhi showdown, or maybe a Joan Ottoman showdown. Is there someone you favor if this goes to that game 5?
If it goes to game number 5, I think in many situations, PuppyPaw should be very fine with Jean. You can't go Mali because Mali kind of like dies to Delhi straight up, and Ottomans have a pretty good shot against them as well. So Mali definitely out of the picture. Jean, I can see they're 100%.
Well, we'll have to see if he can get to that game 5 and maybe put Shown in a little bit more of a positive standing at the end of the day. But for now, we hop into some dominant and strong picks for Kawasan. Japanese in the hands of PuppyPaw, LucifroN taking to the Abbasids. Can Lucy close it in 4, or are we going the full distance? Let's find out.
All right, here we go on Kawasan. PuppyPaw versus LucifroN, both players opening up with their docks on that southern pond.
Yeah, I really like this pick out of both players. You know, we talked about the Japanese on water just a little bit in our very first series, with the Japanese having their fishing boats at half price, right? Docks are full price. Fishing boats are half price. LucifroN, flip that around. Docks are half price. Fishing boats are full price. Probably the fishing boats, depending on how many that you actually get on each Kawasan pond, probably ends up paying off more in wood economy for the Japanese, you know, for getting your ability, maybe less villagers on food or on wood consistently to try to get a lot of those fishing boats. But for the Abbasids, just because of the fact that there are 2 different ponds and you could start getting a lot of these docks off underway to continue to make navy and all of that kind of stuff. Abbasid is a really good pick on this map too.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. It's very easy for both these civilizations to reboom on another pond if they lose a pond. For Abbasid, obviously, because they get the docks up for cheap. And for Japanese, because, as you mentioned, the fishing ships are very, very cheap for them. So, sure, pay full price for a dock, but as soon as you get the dock up, suddenly it's smooth sailing when it comes to repopulating your fishing economy. The one thing that I'm thinking about right now that makes this matchup very interesting to me is the way the Abbasids bonuses, military bonuses work. So something that we've seen a lot of times recently with Abbasid on this map is that they don't even go for water at all. They just straight up go military wing, and then they try to ram down the opponent's dock. This time LucifroN is opening up with his own dock. And something that's interesting when I'm looking at the economy behind this, neither of these players now have any villagers left on wood. They went for like 3 fishing ships, and after that, everything is focused on the age up.
Yeah, and I think, you know, this map, as far as a hybrid map, I think just because of the points that you alluded to, it plays so differently, right? Just like this. You know, we're seeing essentially just a stereotypical, yeah, food and gold age up, but, you know, we had a little bit of a stop, a little bit of a caution flag to get some wood, get some docks, end up getting a couple boats. LucifroN's going to be the first one to hit up to Feudal Age. Going to be going with that military wing, can add some boot camps in Feudal Age if he chooses to, whereas Japan, I'm curious to see this pick because obviously there's a dock and there's only 2 or 3 fishing boats, but on Kawasan, just because you have the land units and the connections, the land connections, Koka's got to be the move here, right?
Yeah, Koka Township is coming in. Then again, military wing, you get 2 free archers, so you will have your tools when it comes to dealing with that shinobi. But if the shinobi is quick, might still be in a position to deny the first military ship coming out from the Abbasid. LucifroN now shifting more villagers again over to wood, so we'll likely want, like, both players will likely want to just immediately get some military ships out there. Interesting fun fact that production is throwing out there is that both of these 2 civilizations, both the Japanese and the Abbasid, are both the worst performing civilizations on Kawasan so far in the tournament.
That, you know,
yeah, that's my reaction to that. I was like,
Wouldn't have guessed that. Wouldn't have guessed that one. But I mean, it could be just because of some of the matchups that they ran up against, right? I mean, it's so difficult in a tournament. Like when you're talking about a tournament meta and a tournament, you know, standings for all of these civilizations, you're usually going up against some of the other best maps of this. It's not really like ladder, where some people just hit random and they kind of see what happens on particular maps. And
that's not Delhi.
Right.
PuppyPaw for a second, he pulled his fishing ships out. It looked like he wanted to attack the villager from LucifroN there, then suddenly pulls him back. Wait, I'm not playing Delhi here.
I mean, with this too, now that you see these fishing boats, we got them, you know, experimenting on the same pond, and, you know, they're grabbing each other's fish. They're having a good time. We're probably waving back and forth at each other. But now, the time for peace, the time for safe fishing is over. and Abbasid did get their second dock. LucifroN did. I would imagine the Japanese tries to do that as quickly as possible. But again, one of the things that we have seen for the Japanese is when you're continuously doing things like getting gold, you're getting some passive stone income, but they're the first one to hit that naval arrow slits. And on a map like Kawasan, where the pawns are as small as they are, it could dictate a lot.
This is rough. PuppyPaw, he moved out to that second pond, but Scout from LucifroN spots him out there, and 2 spearmen immediately make their move onto that villager. No shinobi nearby, so that villager, he's a gunner.
Yeah, that thing's going to go down, and that -1, even though you might think it's one villager, not that big of a deal, it could hurt. It could hurt a lot. We got shinobis trying to disrupt the secondary dock of LucifroN. It looks like it was able to, but just the fact that he has 2 docks is going to continue to be there now. Aeroship for the Japanese has to end up getting repaired. Spearmen trying to take down the shinobi, but I don't know if they really know. This shinobi is an actual ninja, and it's going to be very difficult for them to do that. Looks like he ends up disappearing away, taking it down one spearman and working its way over there now. An archer ship and a springald ship, as you can see wonderfully on that picture-in-picture on the lower left-hand part of your screen. You have an arrow ship, you have a springald ship. LucifroN going to be adding a demo ship as well. Obviously getting that rock, getting that paper, getting that scissors, and making sure that you're going to be able to deal with anything that comes into your vicinity. Second demo ship ends up coming out. And I think this is a lot of just because Abbasid has the ability to have that second dock, you're going to be able to produce a decent amount. Shinobi trying to get that little bit of a sabotage over there on the north side. Hopefully he's able to hit that button pretty soon. Demo ship coming in from the eastern side. Going to be able to smack that springald ship from the Japanese. And all of a sudden, it's 2 docks to 1 for the Abbasids. There's military on it, and there's no military for the Japanese. That's 1 pond that PuppyPaw can't go at anymore.
PuppyPaw, he's in a world of pain right now, losing that pond. No real way right now of coming back in it. He doesn't have the tools in order to get a second dock up on there now. Doesn't have any stone, or at least not enough stone to get an emplacement out there as well. And LucifroN already has a dock up on that northern pond. Looks like PuppyPaw might want to go for one of his own, but the military wing unit still alive and kicking for LucifroN here. And yeah, LucifroN, he's just focusing right now on taking down that dock from PuppyPaw. And man, LucifroN, on these like hybrid maps, looking absolutely dominating right now.
And this is what makes those military wing units so important, because I mean, obviously we know what happens with these shinobi. I mean, just having those 1 or 2 archers makes a world of hurt for those shinobi. They're really, really speedy, so that means they got to eliminate some of their armor in order to skirt their way around a lot of the map. But having those 1 or 2 archers for free, well, PuppyPaw has to pay for his shinobi, and LucifroN just gets handed the free counter. It's too easy. Now PuppyPaw's got to add a stable, and he's got to be adding some horsemen at a time when his food economy that was on the eastern pond is now gone.
Villager isn't going to survive that. Scout will actually take that one down, but Horseman will finally clean up some of these archers, some of these free archers that came out with the military school. Issue is that behind all of this, LucifroN already has 2 docks up on that northern pond compared to 1 dock here right now from PuppyPaw. Shinobi are coming out, trying to sabotage these buildings. Sabotage is going to be coming out, and that one is actually a collapse sabotage, but the ship is going to be popping out any moment now. Looks like Scout isn't going to go down to the TC.
And you can see PuppyPaw, just because of the fact that he was able to sabotage, he got a little bit of an upper hand. I do want to say, though, just because it's 2 docks to 1, you can't, just based on how many shinobi there are out, it's going to be difficult to continuously sabotage something. And the springald ship from the Abbasid dynasty going to be able to make quick work of that 1 shinobi. The second shinobi might end up escaping. But again, that's resources that you spent to do that. Just to delay for a little bit of time. Now, you don't have to worry about it. You have arrow ships. You get a little bit of a sabotage. If Shinobi comes up running, you might not be able to deal with a demo ship from PuppyPaw and from LucifroN trying to get a good hit, and it will if he just goes over there, and it does. Demo ship goes down for PuppyPaw. That's pond number 2 secured for LucifroN. And I don't know if you know this, Kraken. Are you looking at the map? There's only 2 here.
Yeah, both of the docks go over to LucifroN, and man, this is feeling really, really difficult now for PuppyPaw. 8 economy units behind now. He's getting Shinobi out, but that's costly units right now, and he's not really getting a lot of value out of them. He's getting some burn damage, but overall, nothing too noteworthy here in the end. And yeah, just with 1 dog versus 3, he's never gonna be in a position where he can actually get any of these pawns back. Tries to get one of the villagers down, but no, both Shinobi actually able to take one of the villagers down there. Some value gained.
I mean, yeah, you know, a villager ends up going down, but how many resources of Shinobi was it cost? You know, I mean, it's just it just seems like what PuppyPaw is doing with these Shinobi and with these horsemen, they're just disadvantageous trades, right? And we're seeing that kind of compound, especially on land with the Shinobi. A horseman finally goes down, and PuppyPaw's got to allocate some of those villagers onto food at a time when LucifroN doesn't need to do that. And now that he has all of these docks, he's going to be able to continuously be able to press on and keep some of these fish. And for PuppyPaw, he's going to be battling uphill for basically his tournament life.
Yeah, this is it. This is the match point for LucifroN. If he wins this one, which he might very well do, as it's looking for him right now. PuppyPaw behind us. He's trying to age up. He's gathering up the food for it, but LucifroN, he's even closer to age up still. Due to that free food. Well, not free food, but the food that he is getting from that fishing economy.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what it's all about, right? I mean, that's why everybody fights for water so much. Getting the ability to get all of these deep water fish. And now LucifroN will hopefully be able to take this dock down for his sake, but Naval Air Slits does come in at Japanese at a time when I just wish he had it a long time ago.
Demo ship. It's just putting itself right next to the dock saying, all right, you focus down my demo ship with your emplacement, but you're still gonna do the same damage, even if it just exploded itself. And there we go. Dock is now gonna be burning. Springle ship is gonna be on its way. Floating gate is coming in. Oh man, floating gate into a stable with Yorishiro, but there's already 7 spearmen out for LucifroN at this point in time. That is not gonna do a lot.
Yeah, I mean, when you're the Japanese, you got to be thinking about with that floating gate and getting the Yorishiro, getting that military production speed. What are you going to go for, right? For Japan going into Castle Age, you know, you think about doing things like Mounted Samurai. Some people go Onimusha, which I kind of enjoy. PuppyPaw going to be adding that forward barracks, it looks like. Going into Castle Age, maybe we might see some Samurai, which, honestly, the matching up between what LucifroN can make in Castle, things like Gulams and all that kind of stuff, it feels like the Japanese can trade well into it, but there's just too many spearmen for Mounted Samurai to make an impact.
And LucifroN's almost fully walled. I think he just pulled like 6 villagers in order to wall the other side of his base as well. Like, at this point, LucifroN will be fully walled by the time PuppyPaw arrives. Yeah, it's like 4 villagers right now, just getting those walls up.
And that's what, I mean, this was the idea for PuppyPaw. He's like, yeah, I'll try to get some technological advantage because that's kind of the only thing that I have. Not really going to work out for you too well. I mean, he is trying to get the Samurai upgrade to try to get the Hardened Samurai, the Feudal Age upgrade, and we'll be trying to get out a couple. He does have a Samurai on horseback. He's got some mounted Samurai, but again, just because of those walls, it's not going to get there for the Abbasids. And going up to Castle Age, it's 1:45 seconds, whether you like it or not. So that Culture Wing will take a little bit of time, but it will end up going up. And then we're going to see that big power spike from the Abbasids, especially having all of this water and having all of this food. It means you can make so many units.
Samurai is fighting now, but now Age-Up comes in for LucifroN as well, and PuppyPaw, he's finding himself in a world of pain here. Samurai as well, against this many spearmen, doesn't quite stand a chance yet. Looks like that Mounted Samurai might also get taken down either by the spearmen or deflective armor or the ship. Second shot comes in.
You're not deflecting that, buddy. Let me tell you. First one, maybe. Second one, not so much. And these Mounted Samurai, he's trying to kill villagers, right? He's trying to add a little bit of pressure. It's just not going to happen, right? It's just not going to happen. Mounted Samurai will end up getting a charge, but because of you kiting around a lot of these spearmen, trying to figure out where to go is going to be difficult. There, I think there was a little bit of a chopper over on the southeastern part of that wood line. So Mounted Samurai does get in, and maybe a worker or two ends up going down, but I think it should be easily taken care of. LucifroN's adding some knights because he has the ability to. He's going to be adding some crossbowmen because his food economy is as good as it is.
Yeah. Crossbows now also coming in for LucifroN. This, I'll be honest here. Like, at this point in time, don't really see PuppyPaw winning this unless LucifroN somehow throws away his lead there. No Rams as well, and there are so many dogs, so even if you take down one of the dogs, it doesn't really matter. Fishing is still going to be going on.
This is something that LucifroN's doing very well with his military ships. You know, I mean, obviously he got the notification that one of the docks are ending up getting attacked, but before that he was able to patrol and make sure if there was any kind of dock that was coming out, LucifroN was going to be able to see it, and he was going to be able to take it down. PuppyPaw using some land mass just to attempt to try to take down docks, but so many units from LucifroN. Crackety, you know, I mean, military count's 34 to 14. I know we have God mode so we can see what's going on, but for LucifroN, I feel like all he has to do is make a little bit of a mass and A move somewhere, and it's ball game.
Yeah. All the military from PuppyPaw right now in the middle as well, and it feels like he can't really move away from that spot, because as soon as he moves away, that kind of exposes the majority of his food economy right now. He's getting a lot of food granted through his berry gathering. Berry gathering just being very, very strong there for the Japanese, even better than for the Delhi. Is it going to be enough? At least he's going to get one dock down, but one dock goes down, two more go up, as LucifroN is adding two more docks on that pond.
Yeah, and I mean, what's really, for the Abbasid, I mean, you take it down, it's just 75 wood, right? I mean, you're going to be able to make one and no problem, and that's exactly what he does. He just has to pull a villager to do it. PuppyPaw not sufficiently walled. As you can see over there on the northern side, look at all these villagers starting to run for their lives. They're trying to find wherever the Japanese army is. It's like, hey, we need some help. Your peasants, your serfs, they're going to end up going down. And they're going to be trying to go back to that goal. Mounted Samurai might be able to clean up some of these raiding knights out of the Abbasid dynasty. One or two villagers might end up going down if LucifroN has the wherewithal. But again, this is just all about making units. You're causing all of this idle time, less units, even though there's a Yoroshiru in a Japanese stable that's going to be able to make a lot of those mounted samurai. It's all about making sure your villagers are getting the resources so you can continuously produce from it. Either that, and it's not going to pay off.
Behind all of this now, LucifroN, he's making more and more spearmen. No Anabagasha's coming out from PuppyPaw at this point in time. Instead, going for his own spearmen, getting the upgrades in on those. But LucifroN, he's just perfectly content right now with sitting inside of his base and just massing up more and more units. Speaking of sitting inside of his base, I think he's kind of stopped doing that now, as his army is starting to push forward. One outpost here for PuppyPaw. Is that going to be enough to deter LucifroN? It is not, and LucifroN, he's going to charge right in there with his spearmen.
Yeah, I think some of these spearmen, just as long as they're able to just maintain a front line, because the crossbowmen are really going to be used, right? The mounted samurai have to back up, making sure they're not getting hits from some of those spearmen. The samurai going to be able to deflect a lot of what the spearman is giving. This fight, even though, you know, that range mass from LucifroN ends up being relatively safe, overall, that fight for LucifroN, because PuppyPaw, he needed to make a colossal victory in order to make a difference in this game.
Yeah, it did not happen, that colossal victory. There's still so many units flooding over right now from LucifroN's side. LucifroN, 1,200 food per minute. PuppyPaw at 500 food per minute. It just doesn't add up, and GG gets called. PuppyPaw, not able to win this one, is going to give over to Sirius, to LucifroN, 3-1.
Yeah, what a fantastic series. I mean, these are just, I mean, you could think about one or two games that might have been played a little bit differently, you know, but this was the series that we want to see out of one half of the Canadian brethren and one half of the Spanish brethren. We had a very good start to the two series that we have between both of them. But this is just something that LucifroN was able to maintain that water control. And we all know, we all play Age of Empires 4, who's here. You win water, you win the game. And that's exactly what LucifroN was able to do in this pivotal game number 4. And now we have our next series that's going to be coming up rather soon. It's going to be the other half of both of these players. It's going to be Wham and Vortex. KP, what'd you think about that one, brother?
Well, I think a lot of people maybe an unexpected result here. Stats don't lie is what a good friend of mine told me a long time ago in the Dota 2 scene, and apparently stats do not lie here. That is now 5 times in a row that LucifroN has been able to slay PuppyPaw. That takes him up to close to a 90% win rate now since the beginning of 2023. And now it poses a real question, doesn't it? Because Crackety, the LucifroN we saw a little bit earlier in the tournament, not too bad, but definitely not his best form. All of a sudden, with what he just done here against PuppyPaw, the question's got to be asked: is this a grand finalist?
Man, this is a tough call. This is a very tough call to make, and I gotta be honest, I don't want to make it yet. I don't want to make it yet. So far, these games, it feels like in many situations, PuppyPaw kind of got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. For example, that English game, going for that second TC, going straight up to Castle Age without any production buildings whatsoever. Yeah, that hurt. That definitely hurt. Gave LucifroN ample opportunity to try and punish that. On water map wasn't quite the same case, but it was French on water, so you kind of like shoot yourself in the leg with that a little bit.
Yeah,
Kind of an issue. I think he could have put up a little bit of a better fight if he had more archerships, but for that you really have to anticipate just how much LucifroN was doubling down on that mass of demo ships there. Definitely, like that's not something that you can see coming.
To that war game, especially Tim, like when we think back to that, the infamous, almost signature demo pump that we see out of Vortex and LucifroN earlier than practically any other player in Water, it requires such a strenuous level of micro to overcome. Yet PuppyPaw, who I think most people would actually rank very highly on that list, looked like a toddler in the face of that danger.
But KP, the first go round of that with all of LucifroN's demo ships, he was fantastic.
Yeah.
He did great. He split off a lot of those warcogs. He made sure. I don't know why I'm motioning all the way back here. It's just a random wall, but I'm talking with my hands here. The warcogs the first time around, it was so great, right? The second time around, it's just how many times can you do that perfectly, right? It almost it kind of feels like bowling, right? You get your strike and you're like, oh, okay, I just have to do that every single time. But that's the game. That's what makes it tough.
You run around for 20 minutes like, whoo, damn, I'm dancing. Who's next? And then you look behind you, it's an entire zombie apocalypse coming your way, right? There's only so much one man can do. But, I mean, credit to LucifroN. He finally got a win on the board for Abbasids here. Was that statistic a little bit surprising to you, Crackety? The fact that Abbasids, this is their 4th game played. Kawasan, this is the first time they get a win.
I personally just don't read a lot into statistics that come from the group phase at all. It's very scuffed. Like you have to be careful with which statistics you really trust, because if we just go by statistics, Byzantines is one of the weakest civilizations in the game and needs a buff desperately.
Well, actually, but at the same time, Crackety, if we go by statistics, HRE is one of the top 4 competitors. So I mean, I don't know where we go with this, mate. Are you trying to tell me maybe HRE isn't that high, or?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with that start.